Hello and welcome to this edition of the B&H Virtual Event Space. Today is part 6 of the Quest for Wedding Film Mastery with Amber and Garrette Baird, brought to you by Sony. Guys, after all the background communication, I finally get to welcome you to the stage myself. Welcome.
Thank you so
Thanks so
much for
much.
having us. I feel like we're all we already know each other because we have so many similar interests.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
all a bunch of nerds over here.
I'm sure, when you're looking at a tech and camera retail store, you're, I guess, we lean to that sort of side.
The odds are in our favor that we're
Yeah.
gonna find like-minded people.
Well, welcome all the nerds and geeks to the show. Um, uh, to me, it seems like part 6 is the big one. You guys are talking about D-Day today, right? Like we're storming Normandy for this one.
This is the day when it all comes together and all of the planning and preparation and and you drive to the ceremony sometimes just with those butterflies in your stomach, even 20 years later.
Mm.
So
Everyone's different. Yeah.
everyone is different and you never know what you're going to walk into. So being prepared is our number one takeaway I hope that you'll have from this class today. Because it is it's an important day for sure. So it's something that we all need to take very seriously.
Yep.
Mm. Well, everybody, one thing before I go, if anyone's got any questions for Team Eyenamics, please enter them into the YouTube chat. Um, like they said, this is the important one, so I'm going to excuse myself, and y'all can get into it. I'll see you on at the end.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
We
man.
really
Appreciate it.
appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you to Sony and B&H again for hosting us. We're on number 6, so we're on the back half, and we've talked about a lot of stuff that is, technical, and some of it was abstract as far as storytelling, but now we have to put all of that to actual work.
I feel like that we're kind of like an educational fireman, and we have this hose, and we're just like information.
I know. And this is even like 10 episodes, so 10
Yeah.
hours, and here we are still, so, and I feel like even some of them I probably should have split up in half because
Right.
it's like, geez, there's so much still that we can really delve into. And so maybe we'll do those eventually. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here and we'll get started on this keynote slide deck, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so then we're gonna do, where's my play button? It always gets hidden. There it is. All right, Chronicles of Capture or the Chronicles of Narnia. No, okay, sorry, I had to do it.
It reminds me of that SNL song.
That's what I was saying.
The Chronicles of Narnia.
Yes, yes,
Narnia,
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes. All right, so I think that today the key takeaway is, what did I just say it was? And I just said that and then I forgot.
We're equipping them with the knowledge to be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared. You have to be prepared. I just read something else that I wanted to make sure to say though. Number 1 is be prepared. Number 2 is be adaptable.
Right. Yeah.
That's
Flexible and
be
adaptable.
flexible and adaptable.
Because you can't go into any wedding and have a set way of how you're in your mind things. I mean, there are a few things that will always be the same, but there are always variables,
Yeah.
variables, and you just have to have your head on a swivel and be ready to change with the current.
Yeah, I remember one time we had a young kid who was helping us third shoot that day. Like we've had people, and he put the timeline on his watch with alarms, and I'm like, bro, you're just gonna stress yourself
Yeah,
out.
it's too much.
Like you are setting yourself up to be stressed every time that dings. And I'm like, that is not, don't do that.
Well,
So
that was the gentleman. He was the one that went to film school and graduated. And then after shooting a couple weddings with us, he was like, "Yeah, this isn't really what I have in mind for filmmaking."
yeah, I mean, and I
'Cause
get
you got to
it.
be a special kind of crazy to do weddings.
Absolutely, sure, certainly do. And so again, introducing ourselves, Amber and Garrett here. We have been filming weddings together for 20 years, and I have some exciting news.
What's that?
That next slide. What's on the next slide?
I don't know.
Baby Garrett
Oh no! Oh no!
and baby Amber. I wish I didn't grab the one. So we have a picture of you from your very first wedding you ever shot, but this
Yep.
is one of the first
This
weddings
is
we
the first
shot
wedding
together.
together.
So we have one
I
of you.
apologize in advance for the way I'm dressed.
Oh shoot, I missed my slide. Okay. But there it is. There we are. Our very first wedding ever together that we shot. Why am I wearing heels? Is my
I don't know, because we didn't know how to shoot a wedding.
we didn't know
And
like
you-
I had probably been to 3 weddings in my entire life at
It's
that
like
point.
you
too.
are so dressed up and elegant looking, and I'm a schlub. I'm wearing Doc Martens, old Doc Martens, my old ass jeans, and whatever that shirt is. But I feel like a filmmaker. I have a nice tripod and the best camera I could get at the time. And it's funny because we're mixing. We have a Canon XL2, and then I forget the model number, but Amber was on a Sony.
I don't remember either, but I didn't know a damn thing, excuse my language, about a wedding or a video camera.
Right.
Like my face definitely looks confused. I could point it and shoot. That's what I could do.
I'm
So
pretty sure I set it to auto for you.
100% you did. Yeah, it was all fully auto.
You know what? They loved it. It was awesome.
Yeah, who
It was
cares?
great.
And it's so what happened, like these people did not pay us. And they shouldn't your first wedding. I mean, honestly, if it had my druthers, like I think that everyone should probably like assist in at least a year's worth of weddings. Like that is if you really want to set yourself up for success. And I know that assisting is hard, but shooting weddings and all the admin that goes along with it is hard too. So
I bet we did at least 4 or 5 before we got our first paycheck. And when I say paycheck, I mean like $200.
for real.
And I was
No,
like, $200? Yes, I'm
These
gonna make.
people,
Yeah.
these people were our friends. Sorry, I
Right.
cut you
No,
off
it's
there.
fine, that's
Your
fine.
your celebratory $200.
Yeah.
We were very, and we've told that story so many times because we were just like, we can do this. We can do art and
Yep.
make money. One of the things that I missed our slide here, our quote slide. I forgot. I got distracted. But our biggest thing in our career is rock what you got.
So the mantra we say
Has-
every wedding we say that.
Every
Yeah.
wedding, because you cannot control what the couple has decided to do for their wedding. You can't control how beautiful or how ugly it is. We're just going to be honest. So you have to go into it knowing that you're going to do the best that you can for them. You're going to rock the heck out of what you got. So rock what you got. That has always been our motto. And you know, at one point, like for us, we live in a very rural community in a small town in southern Indiana. And we would get discouraged because all of our colleagues that live in, nicer cities than we do, even though they were charging the same amount, had nicer weddings. And we were just so discouraged thinking that. But you have to, like honestly, we had to work a little harder, and that made our chops better. Like our filmmaking chops are way better because we have to look at things differently, like we had talked about in previous episodes. All right, so rock what you got, and then back to baby Amber and Garrett. Look at them; they had no idea what they were doing.
We have a clue.
Oh boy! Oh geez, show a little baby. I'm also wearing white. I mean, that's not a best choice. But so these were our friends too. The
Yeah.
people whose weddings they were, these were our friends. So like we probably would have gone to the wedding anyway. So the night before the wedding, so we're just gonna go ahead and jump right in. You need to set yourself up for success and control all of your known variables. So the things that you can control, you need to make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's.
Yep. And so like having the plan like from the wedding planner, and then usually Amber will take it and break it down and what's best for us, because we don't need to know every single thing that's going on throughout the entire day. We just need to know like the big events, what time is the ceremony, what time is the reception, what time is the creative session, things like that. And so by committing those to memory, and I would actually I would take that schedule and make it the background on one of my, like the wallpapers on one of my phone screens. So at any time I can pick it up and look at it and just see where we are throughout the day. And it's not necessarily timing is almost always different. I think the ceremony almost always starts on time, but everything else is up in the air. So I'm not really looking at the timing as much as I am like what's next. I'm trying to, like, if I'm filming the prep, like what's next? Are we doing a first look? Are we doing, I'm going to go hang out with the guys, whatever they're doing. So I'm kind of just looking just beyond where I'm at to prepare myself for what's coming up next.
So I usually reach out to I mean, I have been in I had been in conversation and contact with a planner, photographer, sometimes the sound engineer. So we have already really gone over and are familiar with the schedule. And again, like most weddings flow the same way. And now if it's a culturally different wedding than yours, than what you're used to, then you need to make sure you do your research too. So these are the things that you have to set yourself up for success. I remember our very first Indian wedding. The bride invited us over to her house and we walked through all of the different ceremonies and all it, like she took us step by step because we had never, I think that was probably like the first encounter with Indian people that I had ever had.
The culture.
Yeah, from in that culture period. So she was really excited because she was actually wanting to learn about the customs her own because she had been to weddings, but she didn't know what they meant. So she did a lot of research and it was a really cool experience to get to learn. And so that actually that very first Indian wedding set us up to be successful for the rest of them that we
Yep.
did because we knew like why these are significant.
And
So
and also it helped us, like, the next, like, South Asian wedding we got, they would ask us, "Have you filmed one before?" We could say yes, because a lot of, pe customers or your clients are gonna be a little worried, like, if they have, like, a South Asian wedding and have ever shot are, let's say, Christian weddings,
or
um,
shown or
or
like
shown, yeah,
yeah.
so they're gonna be, set much more at ease knowing you've already shot one.
Yeah. So yeah, that was really nice. And then we took it a step further and we made sure we researched. Now back in the day, they weren't really on YouTube. I feel like I don't even remember where we went to look. Was Vimeo a thing? I feel like it may have been.
Maybe. We did find some
But we
videos,
did find
yeah.
some videos to familiarize ourselves with the culture too. And the same with any because we grew up in like Christian, so like even Catholic ceremonies were different to us and
I think the
Jewish
biggest,
ceremonies are different to us and Greek ceremonies were different. All of them were so different to us. We had to make sure we did our research. Go ahead.
like, for that ceremony, I was kind of surprised that I couldn't wear my shoes.
Yeah.
So that kinda hurt later.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
like, okay, at first I was like, "This is comfortable. Yeah, I love this."
Oh,
I'm
this
like,
is
"Wait a
fun.
minute. Nope, this hurts."
I've been standing for an hour in one spot. This sucks. Okay. Okay. So making sure that you set yourself up for success in controlling your own variables.
But what was good about that wedding is I remember they had, like a intermission when they served snacks.
Oh
You
yeah.
got to eat some snacks, and you went back to the wedding. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
That was nice.
Yeah.
I forgot to move on. So finalize the schedule. And some of these things I'm not just doing the night before, I'm doing a couple days before. It just depends on what my personal schedule looks like. Um, make sure you have contact info for everyone. Literally, I have the contact info on that. So on the schedule I take from the wedding planner, I make it much more simple and just like hitting the highlights, make sure I
Like
have
Cliff Notes,
the
almost.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I make sure I have the addresses, the specific addresses to every location. And at the bottom, I have the phone numbers for the planner, the couple, the photographer, a lot of them that we've worked with before. We already have them. But if you're new, you need to make sure you have all of these things because that will come in handy to keep open communication throughout the day.
And even having the venue phone number, because
Venue, yeah.
we always go early to the venue if we have, a space and time to set up our lights or whatever. And sometimes they're not open yet. They're in there working, but they're not open yet. And so all the doors are locked. So if you have their phone number, you can call them and talk directly to them instead of having to call like one of the parents or the bride and
Or
worry
the
her
wedding
about it, or
planner.
the wedding planner.
They already have too much going
Right,
on.
right, right. And you can just call, them directly and say, "Hey, I'm outside. Could somebody open the door?" That'd be
Yeah,
great.
exactly. So making sure you have all of that to set yourself up for success. Make sure all your gear is prepped. That is so ridiculous to say, but do this the night before.
Mhm.
These are things you're not doing on the wedding day.
Right, right, right.
You're doing them the night before at least. So if we have a wedding on Saturday, I like to start charging batteries on Wednesday because we have so many stinking different batteries.
Yep.
And then there's always at least one more you forgot to charge the night before. So, when you have your drone and the drone controller and all
Drone,
your
lights,
batteries.
cameras, microphones. Like this picture here you're seeing is an RX0 Mark II, and
Mhm.
it's a 24 mm fixed. It looks like a GoPro, but it's the furthest thing from it. It's like those teeny tiny little cinema camera, and it's a a f4 24 millimeter fixed lens, and I use it on this ceremony because we could not, the church would not let us be up front when she walks down the aisle. We had to be at the very back of the church, which just broke my heart.
So that is something that you need to know beforehand.
Right.
So Garrett made sure to have this with it. Like we usually always have those with us with a mini tripod and things like that. Those are things that we keep in our car, even like that mini tripod kind of just stays in our bag. But we knew that we were not going to have access to the front of the aisle when bride walked down. So we had to make sure we had it covered a different way.
Now, I will also add, I have a box in the back of my car that is not stuff I bring into the wedding with me or the reception, but it's ancillary equipment, support equipment. That what if I need this? So I may have a magic arm. I may have some little tiny light panels that I normally never use. I may have suction cup mounts. I'll have anything for this camera, and kind of like just hardware. And so if I'm in the church and I either need something, or like we did another ceremony where I had an idea, and so I took this same little camera and I used a magic arm and mounted it on the balcony, shooting straight down. So as the bride and her dad walked underneath it, it was just a beautiful, symmetrical, beautiful shot down. And it's just some of that little, like those hardware equipment I don't have room in my bag for, but if it's in the car, I can just go grab it and throw it on there, and I'm good to go.
And we're not schlepping that everywhere.
Right,
Because
right,
it's
yeah.
not necessary. Like we have these some of these magic arms. I'm looking at the one that's right here holding up that light. That looks like it's probably 5 pounds.
Yeah, it's about as big as my arm.
Yeah, it's huge. So making sure you have all your gear prepped. That also means your cards are formatted, ready to
yes.
go. You have all your backups. You have backup cables. Like we had a slider once that took like 2 different cables, and we always had to have backups of those.
Right.
So things like that are frustrating.
Like right now, the motion control slider we have, it takes one network cable, but I have 2 with me because I've done it before, plugged it in, and then been carrying it and smacked it on something and broke it off. So
Yep. And then
backups.
yes, and then I'm sorry. And then if you have like making sure you have enough batteries, like your camera batteries and like double A's if you're using those for your recorders and stuff like that.
Always start, like if you do use your recorders that take batteries, I always put fresh batteries in there. I don't care if the battery I put in is at 89%. I don't care. I want a brand new fresh battery so I can use it all day and not have to worry about it.
So at some points we've used rechargeable double A's, and then some points we've not. The when times we didn't, we would just give those batteries to like our friends and family for their clocks or like little
The
things.
non-rechargeable ones, yeah.
Yeah, the non-rechargeable ones. So making
Remote,
sure that
yeah.
you're remotes, things like that. So making sure you're recycling too. We
Good point.
make sure your clothing. Like what if so we got to the point where we would have just our wedding uniform. Garrett just has his uniform period that he wears every day. This shirt.
In my defense, yeah,
This
I
shirt.
have more than one of these. I have like 6. So this picture here is not from a wedding. I no longer wear jeans to weddings, just to clarify that.
Oh, I
You
didn't
shouldn't
even
either.
think about that,
I
Garrett.
know. I think we were. I think it was like a pre-wedding, like
Yeah,
almost like an engagement shoot or something.
yeah, I think
So
so.
I wore jeans.
Yeah, I don't wear a
traveling.
dress to a wedding either because I get on the ground too much, so I always wear black pants. But making sure that you are looking the part too.
Black on black just usually works because you blend in, and like if you're in the shot, then you're not, if you were wearing like orange or something, you're quite the eyesore. But
know.
we wear black just kind of to blend into the background and somebody can see us in
I
our
think we're
cameras.
giants anyway.
Yeah.
Like we just need to. So I will wear like okay, variations of dark muted colors. Okay, but I also have purple hair. So
Yeah, purple hair blends in so
come on,
well.
I just blend right in with all these tattoos and purple hair. But making sure you have it all laid out and ready to go because what if it's in the washer or the dryer or it has a hole or whatever? So you just don't want that frustration in the morning because I want to wake up in the morning stress free
Ready
to
to go.
start with. Stress free to start with. All right, what's the next? Snacks and cooler packed. Man, I really wish that we would have thought about that way earlier than we did, but we're dumb sometimes. And so we started packing like full snacks, full sandwiches,
Oh, it's-
chips,
Oh, it was funny. I got those story real quick.
bananas.
We had a wedding where the Secret Service was there, and they had bomb sniffing dogs go through our car, and the dog found our stash of beef jerky and was very happy. And his handler thought that was like pretty funny. He was like, he went right to the beef jerky. Forget any other thing. I want that. I want that meat.
So, I mean, and the problem is, and we've all been there, there have been times where we weren't fed at the reception. And as
Yeah.
heartbreaking as that feels, like it just makes you feel like you're not even like worthy. I don't want to talk about
So
that
when
feeling.
we first
But
started,
make sure you at least have something to nourish yourself.
yeah, I mean, granola bars, beef jerky, something.
I mean, it got like packing a sandwich. Like, I can't believe that I didn't even just do that sooner because, like, some of these Catholic weddings that we do here locally, like, we sometimes start bride prep at like 8, 9, 10 in the morning.
Right.
And so by the end of the reception, that's usually 3 or 4, you know.
When we first started, we were like, no, we do not eat during the wedding day. That's so unprofessional.
You did that. I said that's silly. But,
Well,
you know.
I told you not to eat, and that lasted like maybe one wedding. Like, okay, we can't do that.
But that was also like around here, they would have a buffet, and the family would always tell us to eat,
Yeah.
you know, but it's a little more complicated whenever there's like plated meals and stuff. And so you just need to make sure, like, I mean, we've ordered pizza before with a photographer. So it's like just, make sure you take care of
Oh,
yourself
life
because
save. Sorry, I interrupted.
no, it's okay. Just make sure you take care of yourself and your
Right.
body. Fueling and nourishing your body is so important because, like, we've all had that end of the day, and you're just like, I can't even move. What was the lifesaver?
Those little packets you can put in water bottles for
Oh yeah,
hydration. Those are lifesavers.
they really are. Liquid
Especially-
IV types.
Yeah, especially if, like in the Midwest during the summer, you're shooting weddings and it's humid, and you're just expelling all of your liquid, just sweating it out.
Yeah.
So those little things are lifesavers and
Yeah,
really help you stay hydrated and healthy.
because if you're not nourishing your body, your brain is not thinking clearly. I mean, how many times have we made mistakes because we were just not nourished?
Right.
We were dehydrated, we were hangry, those type of things just cause more stress.
And we always have a cooler in our car full of ice and bottled water,
Drinks.
drinks.
Make sure you have a weather plan if you see that impending weather is happening. I mean, I think we always at least have a couple umbrellas and maybe a bag to throw over our camera in there. But if you know it's going to be
Yeah.
a weather issue, making sure you're also up to date on the backup plans for the wedding, like the wedding, like if the ceremony's not going to be here, it's going to be here,
Right. Going back to what she was saying about be prepared for the weather, in that box of support equipment that I keep in my car, it's also good to have in there. They're almost practically disposable weather covers for your cameras. I mean, you can get whatever. I mean, they have all kinds of great ones.
B&H has some amazing
they do.
weather covered.
They have some that are practically disposable that are
Yeah.
very, very inexpensive. So if you have to shoot outside, and our cameras are weather sealed, so they're really great. But if it's really coming down and you should want to make sure everything's good and protected, maybe you have a monitor on your camera, maybe you have a microphone that's not waterproof. These bags are very inexpensive. They just open up, go over the camera. There's like a little pull tie or something that kind of ties it tight. And yeah, it's a great thing to have for backup when you need it.
One fun fact. So that shoot that I think I showed the film last week when we talked about audio, the Bowen video we showed last week. It poured rain that day, and Garrett had to cover all of the cameras with Walmart sacks, I think. Did you have like a couple rain covers, but then you ended up
I
like
think so, because I was
not
doing
having enough?
yeah, I was doing a multi-camera time lapse of them
Yeah.
putting this massive piece of equipment
Yeah.
inside, and it was a very slow process. And so it was just sitting out in the rain, and like, well, it'll probably be okay, but I'd rather not take the chance. So I think I had a couple of those, like what I was just talking about. And then I'm like, anybody have a Walmart sack?
It's
A
you gotta
Target sack? Or
rock what
fancy?
you got.
Yeah.
Rock what you got. And then also the not so funny thing was that I was actually on my way to vacation that day to a tropical vacation.
And I'm out in the rain, in the dirt, in the mud.
It's all right. We had also filmed there before.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it was
okay. Make sure your vehicle is ready to go. Like the last thing I want to do is stop for fuel because it just like, oh, I got to leave that much sooner. Just get it all done the night before, the day before, a couple days before. All right, so wedding day flow. Oh gosh, we have 30 minutes left and we didn't
Oh.
even get into
Okay.
But like so much of it is the preparation.
Yeah.
Like that is the biggest
If you
thing.
go into it ill prepared, you're gonna have a rough
A
go.
hundred
So I know
percent.
you're like, I know somebody's probably watching this with like, yeah, I know to do that. I know that seems like really simple. Talk about the meat of shooting. Like all this stuff we've talked about so far is crucial important to having just by having all this ready, your brain's not thinking about all this the day of the wedding because you know you're prepared, you know your gear's ready, you can concentrate on the creative aspect and not be worried about all the other stuff that we just talked about. Setting yourself up for success, like Amber said.
Yeah. So now we're getting into the flow, and I would say like 90% of the weddings go like this.
Mm.
Now, you need to make sure that if it's a different wedding from you culturally, you're aware of what may happen. Like, for Jewish weddings, the ketubah signing will be at a certain time. And, like Indian weddings, they'll have like different types of ceremonies throughout the day. So you need to make sure you have all of that in. But this is just a general, like, wedding mostly happens like this. Um, like whenever like I said, when I baby Amber, she had only been to like 3 weddings and I had never even been in any weddings. At this point, I don't even think I've only been in my own wedding because I always film everybody's
Right,
wedding.
right.
So I didn't know anything about weddings. And if you don't, second shoot.
Right.
Help, like just reach out and say, hey, I would have loved and that has happened to us that people who wanting to start learning, they're like, hey, can I second shoot with you for a few weeks?
And I gotta be honest with you. I mean, if you second shoot for me and you've never shot a wedding, I'm not gonna really want to pay you because you're learning from me. Like if you come and shoot a second wedding with us, and or anybody else, I wouldn't expect to be paid because you're
At the beginning.
at the beginning because you're being paid with knowledge. You're learning basically on the job. And if they're gracious enough to pay you, that's awesome. But your payment in your mind when you go into second shoot with somebody should be I'm gaining knowledge. I'm learning like at the school of cinema, trying to figure this out and put it all together. So don't worry about the payment so much as just getting out there. It's like how do you become an artist? You do art. How do you become a filmmaker? You shoot film. How do you become a photographer? You shoot photos. And that's exactly how you learn this whole wedding is get out there. And we didn't have anybody around us in this area. We were the first of our kind, to be quite honest, in the southern Indiana. So if you can find somebody that you can befriend and say, hey, I want to learn. Don't worry about paying me. I just want to help and just see what I'm in for. That's what you really need to do.
Yeah, because I mean, training also, I mean, as somebody who's trained a second shooter on the wedding day, that's difficult too.
Right.
Because then it's just like even more to try to explain. So Garrett and I have unspoken communication on a
Oh,
wedding
yeah,
day.
absolutely. We don't know sign language, but we have our own form.
Yeah. So let's get started on
Okay.
this. Okay.
Morning prep. You want me to?
So your focus whenever you walk into morning prep. Firstly, what we do is we don't overwhelm them with all of our stuff. If you walk in there with every piece of gear you own and set this big old case down, they're gonna get nervous.
Start setting up lights. If you bring in a big the first thing is you pull out your gimbal.
They're gonna get nervous
They're
and
gonna
they're
get
gonna
nervous.
shut down and they're not gonna act normal.
And one way that we help them get used to the cameras is we're always to the prep before we need to be. So we're there and we start shooting, even though unless we get lucky and maybe there's some mimosas, toast or something, we really don't want to show the bridesmaids and the bride and the mom and the grandma. We don't want to show them getting their eyelashes glued on. We don't want to show them getting the first foundation or maybe getting the hair extensions. That's like how the sausage is made. We don't want to see that. We're gonna get there and we're gonna film that because we might get lucky and grandma may hug the bride or something. It may be a beautiful moment, but we're just getting the couple and getting all the bridesmaids used to being filmed. So when it comes time to get the real good gold that we need from them, the final touches of the makeup, the final touches of all the bridesmaids helping her with her dress, they're already going to be used to that, and they're not going to be all stressed out like, oh, what's the camera guy doing?
Yeah.
And it really, really helps set the tone for the rest of the day because they're already used to having a camera around.
And they're used to our presence as well. Just having people that you don't know in a very intimate scenario, even though it's
Especially when
normal.
they're big guy like me coming
Yeah.
in and "Arr, my camera," like,
It's
um,
normal for us, but
right.
for them, like, because we've done this every weekend for 20 years, 600 or however many weddings. And so, but for them, I'm just thinking about like, how weird must that be for
Right.
them? So getting there, I know a friend of ours always said, "Look, he just walks in with a coffee." And then you like have your brief, how's it going? How's the day going? Any drama? Don't ask about drama. But and then he's like, all right, I'm gonna go get my stuff and I'll be back. So that's the thing. I always like to come in with just my camera and monopod, and then Garrett doesn't have anything, usually. Or Garrett will just have a camera too.
Usually,
Just during
especially when I go to see the guys and film them, I won't even bring a monopod. I just have
yeah.
the camera, and I can do a lot handheld, and it's less intimidating for them. When I'm shooting the bride prep, I usually kind of like if you're out photographing wild animals in a preserve, you don't go right into the middle of the group and start filming them or shooting them. You kind of start on the outside perimeter. So I won't go like right into where the makeup's being done and start getting detailed shots of the brush and the makeup. I'm going to start from way back and then slowly over the next hour or so, I'm going to kind of creep in, get a little closer so that they're getting used to my presence. And then when it's time for those gold shots, then I can get in there and everybody's used to me. Yeah, start on the outside and work your way in.
You know what I love about that too is that's exactly how I approach like reception dancing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Exactly the same way. Another thing that you need to think about on a morning, whenever you're doing prep and stuff, if like the bride dressed and things like that, need to tidy up the place sometimes. I'm sorry, I know that
Yep.
you're not the maid, but you got to do it. You got
'Cause
to
you
do it.
you don't
Tidy
want
up the
that
place.
plastic bag that some dress came in sitting on the couch in the background. And
Yeah.
I especially when I do the groom prep, oh my god.
Ooh,
Every
bomb dropped in there.
cardboard covered hanger, every bottle from the night before. And we're in Southern Indiana, so and then there's like beer cans. So it's not beyond me to clean it up because I want to give them the best representation of their wedding day. I don't want we don't want to see trash in the photos, right?
Right.
It's like when you're doing a table shot, you don't want to see the packets of sweetener. You don't want to see the salt and pepper shakers unless they're gorgeous, right? But all that little trash and little stuff, you just want to kind of move that to the side,
Yeah.
clean up a little bit.
Yeah, and we always like to make sure we talk with the photographer about positioning. So like if we're going into, okay, well the bride's gonna get dressed here, and that usually is a place where we discuss, okay, lighting, what way are we going to turn them, things like that. So those are all the things that you're gonna think about and talk to with the photographer. You don't just have to accept it the way it is, and because then as soon as we like have it figured out with the photographer, then either the photographer or I will go to the bride and like, hey, do you mind when we go? Like, this is when she's still getting ready. She's kind of sitting there just like taking it all in. Hey, do you mind whenever you go to get your dress on if we go dress here XYZ? And so then while she's finishing up, the photographer and I and Garrett will go and kind of tidy that up, while she's doing things that we don't necessarily need to capture.
Even move furniture around,
Yeah,
make it.
I mean,
Yeah,
we've done it all. We've moved beds, we've moved chairs, everything. So you can take control of the environment is what
right.
we're trying to say. Making sure that you are using light to your best of with using light and everything in that room to the best of your ability.
Right, and in a non-confrontational way.
Yes.
Like for instance, you may work with a photographer who maybe doesn't have. Well, for instance, we did one wedding where the family really went the extra mile and saved money with the photography because the film was more important to them. So they hired us, and they hired she's a wonderful person, but she was just kind of starting out in her photography, wedding photography business, and so she didn't quite have a grasp on lighting as well as Amber and I did. So where she wanted to do the first look, was in just stark, direct sunlight, and Amber and I went out there to look, and like the bride and the groom were going to be squinting because it was no clouds in the sky. It was just very, very, very harsh, and it was very hot. So if the groom is sweating at all, it's going to be shiny. And so we had to have. It wasn't really awkward. It was just I don't like any confrontation
Mhm.
anyways. So I was like, hey, you know what? We found this spot over here that has a really nice, the lights coming down really nice, and it's shaded, and it has a beautiful like barn in the background with it. Would you be okay maybe moving the first look to over here? And luckily she was like, oh yeah, that's great. Let's do that. So sometimes you may have to, I don't want to say fight, but just stand up for what you believe would be a better um, place to do something that maybe has already been planned to do it in one spot, but you look there and it's just horrible. Then maybe the light's horrible. Maybe there's construction in the background. I don't know. So just don't be afraid, like Amber was saying, just to try to take control in a very team effort, like not as you're in control, but in a very communicative can say it.
That is a hard word.
Yeah, so yeah, just talk it out, be nice, be human, and yeah, don't be afraid to find fight for I hate saying that. I don't want to say fight.
No,
I don't know what else to say.
it's here's the thing though, we're all there for the same
Right.
purpose. And so if we're working together as a team, we're all going to be on the same page and it's fine. There have been times when we've worked with photographers that I don't know why and I don't know how they just did not work well with us and we did not work well with them or whatever. They were the weird ones for sure,
Right.
not us. So
Well,
speaking of the first
They
look, I
they
mean,
were an example of not being team players.
yeah.
They were in control. This is what they wanted to do, and our opinion did not matter at all to them. And so just don't be you're gonna run into that. Just don't be that. Be the person that is a team player and wants to work for the betterment of the couple.
100%. And your couple will see that because I mean, we've had couples apologize about their photographer to us. So they will see, like, if you're trying to be a team player and the photographer or any other vendor is not it's not that hard to see. And so, yeah, like many times, I mean, I remember there was one time, like,
We
once
gotta
we get into the remember, I know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So first
Member
look,
berries.
we're capturing emotion and key moments again. So it's all about that story building and progressing your story further as we try to progress this podcast further. But again, we're always communicating with the photographer.
Right.
And it's just usually we try to do the one stands here, one walks up, there's somebody shooting this way, somebody shooting this way. So you're not crossing each other's 180. So you're shooting from the same side is what
Right.
we're wanting.
Mhm.
For the ceremony. Of course, this is the big one. So we're capturing live event, but we're also there to capture emotion. And so that makes it hard. And that's why this job is hard because you have to be able to, and that's why, like a wedding photographer, as you know, you have to be a photojournalist and a portrait artist, and you have to be all of these things the same way with a wedding filmmaker. So, the key moments like processional vows, ring exchange, first kiss, all of these things that can't be done again. That's a lot of pressure. And so practice is really your like the biggest thing to help you with that.
Right. And if you're just first starting out, especially if you're alone, even with the two of us, sometimes to get what we actually want from a ceremony is tough because we have to make sure we capture the what we call the meat and potatoes of the wedding. All the walks down the aisle, the first kiss, the vows, those have to be captured. And if you're by yourself and you're trying to do funky gimbal shot while that's going on, there is a possibility you could miss it. So with us, and I think you have a slide coming up later showing this, but we'll have upwards of
Yes.
like 4 cameras locked down on the key players, and then I will usually run around with either a slider, a gimbal, and just get different, more cinematic, creative, moving shots during the key moments, knowing that I have 3 other cameras from 3 different angles that are capturing that. So even if I mess up, which I never mess up, I know Amber has me covered, and if for some reason she's messing or I don't say messing up, but like focused on maybe grandma crying, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere they're like, "You may kiss the bride," and then I miss it, Amber misses. Well, guess what? I have 2 more cameras. One is a wide shot in the back of the church that I know is rolling and I'm covered. So having that peace of mind and knowing you're gonna capture those key moments and still have time to play and do your funky gimbal shots, it's a nice peace of mind to have.
Right. So, I mean, in general, this is kind of the way every ceremony they walk down the aisle. The castle in this scenario is the couple. They walk down the aisle. Garrett's in the front of the aisle, filming them the processional. I'm on the side. I am also capturing the processional as it goes to the side, and then it's like if and then I capture the reaction up front. And then Garrett is capturing the reaction as they walk down the aisle. And then
I'm
after,
capturing the bride and her father, whoever.
but what if there's a second bride up front? That's why I'm not saying bride.
Okay, yeah. So what do you say then?
Person?
Okay, person.
Yeah.
And so
I know. The
the
person up front. So I'm capturing the person up front. You're
yeah,
capturing the people walking down the aisle
right.
during the processional.
And
I know.
and so she's capturing the people as they come down one by one, group by group, and then when the person is being walked down the aisle, the bride or the other groom, whoever it is, then she locks in on the person that is waiting
Mhm.
on their husband slash wife, whoever.
It's
And
okay.
so we have a nice reaction if, hopefully he's crying or doing something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's what we're always going for. We also have the slider, so this one at the back, the big back one is so I hope that's the one that's big at the bottom there. That's the big camera. We always have a safety camera, usually wide, but
Yeah.
like that's the thing. That's usually we say usually a lot
Yeah.
because of that. And then the slider at the bottom, so that will slide out as they walk down the aisle. Um,
Remember that box I was telling you about in the car? Something else I have in there, if we don't have a balcony and I just have to put the camera on the back behind people. There's another little, it's a little, height thing that you put on top of your tripod. So it makes your tripod another like 3 foot taller. So it just kind of screws down on the top and then you're an additional like 3 foot extension pole basically that goes on top of your tripod. That way, when everybody stands up, I still have above the head view of everybody.
like for outdoor wedding.
Right.
Yes. All right. And so then after everyone's up front, Garrett pops over and then he will usually lock a camera down on one side and I always have one locked down on the other and then we have the one in the back and then we have the one in the back and then he starts roaming.
Right. So we have two either medium or medium tight shots of the couple of like she just said, Amber's shooting from the right, I'm shooting from the left, and there's like an over the shoulder shot of the other person, so we can cut back and forth between that if as they're crying or giving their vows, things like that. And then I'm like she said, roaming around trying to get some more cinematic shots.
And so see, like on this picture I was looking, sometimes with hopos you have to be careful because they'll block faces. So you may have to go like to the back side of it and shoot that way instead of on the front side. So you just have to oh, and there's like is it Greek? There was like a Greek wedding where they stood. So we had to stand on the
Yeah.
other side too. So just making sure that you're aware of where people will be facing is what you also need to know.
Yeah, and like we said, be very flexible because what we just showed you where we normally stand didn't work at this
Didn't
wedding.
work at this
You're seeing
wedding
now
because of the hopa.
so we had to do some
Yep.
creative stuff in
Yep.
there.
All right, the portrait section. It's my favorite.
Oh, I don't know what was going through my mind right there, but ooh,
Hurry up, let's go.
I think I was like, "Ooh, this shot's gonna be great." Ooh.
So the portrait session, our focus is on capturing emotion, getting those epic shots, and filming their VIPs. So making sure that we're capturing all of the family members that are, there. Like whenever, so like, let's say like for the formal family session, a lot of the times I just am capturing like some of the like cute little interactions that happen. 90% of the time we don't use those, but they're important occasionally. And it's good to have as a transition.
Right.
you know,
And
things
if
like
you
that.
have, there usually is like little kids running around and aunts and uncles picking them up and playing with them. That's
Yeah,
gold.
yeah,
That's really
gold.
nice. Yeah.
That's absolutely gold. And those are the closest family members. So I also use that time to kind of look at the people there because those are the people I want to make sure I capture like later on at the on the dance floor, you know, like if I see someone and I know, well, they were at the family session, so odds are they're family,
Right.
and they're busting it down on the dance floor, I'm gonna be getting that.
Yep.
Not that I wouldn't, but I'm going to take extra effort.
And if you have a bad memory like me and you have a hard time remembering the bridal party, usually up to the dance floor at least, if you pretty much anybody with a boutonniere on, a flower, things like that, those are VIPs. So I've never showed up to a wedding with a boutonniere on.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, so if you have a bad memory and there's 20 people in a bridal party, anybody with a boutonniere or flower on, you know what, that's somebody you should be shooting.
Mhm. So for the next part of so you know we have our family, and then usually you know you go to the group, like just the bridal party itself. And so there are a few shots that we like to get of the bridal party with. A lot of the times we like to get the bride with the bridesmaids doing things, but a lot of the times we focus a little more on the grooms with the groom and the groomsmen. Specifically because they don't get photographed as much in the morning. So like we'll like take a little bit extra effort to get a photo of or a video clip of them walking. Like they always love like the GQ walk or
Yeah,
something.
but I'll tell them to do like a Mighty Ducks flying V
Yeah,
formation, walk down the road,
something along
and
those
then
lines.
I'll say, okay, now, and as they're walking towards me, looking all cool, and I mean, it depends on the group, but most of
Yeah.
the guys are already nervous because they're being photographed. It's like, okay, now everybody, let's have some tomfoolery, and they're like, what? I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
just kind of, maybe just kind of, shove somebody on the shoulder and laugh, and maybe, just horse around a little bit, and sometimes that gets out of control, but for the most time, it gives me just a little something more than them walking super stiff and being weird, so that they
Yeah.
kind of start joking around and
Yeah.
giving each other guff.
All of this is to learn with experience,
Yep.
unfortunately, and watching photographers, like, especially when you're working with experienced photographers, watch how they interact with the group too, and you will learn so much. Like, I have learned so much about posing just watching my photographer friends. But like, you know, you also just have to remain again in constant communication, like with a photographer, you know, where are we doing this? What, you know, if I need, do I need a certain clip of the bridal party
Right. Don't
or,
be
you
afraid to
know,
ask for your needs.
mm-hmm,
Like when we first started for a long time, we would just follow the photographer around and get what was given to us basically. But as we
mm-hmm,
matured, we thought, okay, we need this shot and this shot and this shot. And if we didn't get it by the time the photographer was done, we're like, hey, you mind if we take them here and do this pose or have them walk over here by these trees or whatever. So don't be afraid to ask for something that you're really wanting, because that could make or break
mm-hmm.
that particular part of your film.
Mhm. I mean, there used to be a shot that we would do every time. Well, one of them we did was we would have the bridal party line up,
Oh
and then
yeah.
Garrett would go down the line with them making funny faces, and then at the end it would be the bride and groom kissing. We did that for years,
Yeah.
and they loved it. But
It's goofy.
it was goofy. And then the more recent one that we still probably would do, Garrett would start high and then like have everybody like kind of in a group
Oh,
and the
yeah.
couple kiss. And as he would 3, 2, 1, and then everybody would cheer.
Right.
And so Garrett like to kind of soften the mood. He's like, okay, you two make out and everybody cheer, you know. But then you would get these like weird couples who didn't really like PDA, and so they would be like,
Public display
you know, and
protection,
so
yeah.
so it's like you just have to again be very open-minded and flexible about what you're going to capture.
Also, a tip during the day, and I am the worst at this, but I'm concentrating on my framing and I'm concentrating on my camera settings, and maybe I have the gimbal, maybe I'm handheld, is I tend to go into resting, you know what face,
Mm,
because I'm concentrating, and so I'm just like, I'm like my head's all like furrowed and my eyebrows are furrowed. I'm like concentrating, and I look very unapproachable. Like nobody should approach me. I'm like kind of almost like mad at my camera. But if you can try to, have a happy face while you're shooting and
yeah,
smile a lot, and then maybe when you are setting the bride and groom up and you get the shot, you comment on your own shot like, "Oh man, that's great."
yeah.
And even though you've done it a million times, telling them that, oh, that is beautiful. That puts such a confidence booster in them, and they know that you're getting exactly what you want, and they're gonna get what they paid for.
The encouragement, you
Yeah.
have to encourage them or else you're not gonna get very genuine, let's say, reactions. Like just even just like, oh my gosh, the light's so good. This is such a good shot, just like
You're
kinda
putting
like
some good energy
you're
bubble
glazing
around
them
you.
up.
Yeah.
You're glazing them up.
Because
So
they're not actors and they're gonna respond how they would like humans respond. So if you're over there looking all grumpy on your camera, like, oh, I guess that'll work.
camera's a mirror.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
Even the mirrorless ones are a mirror. Bad joke, sorry.
So for the reception, so Garrett has two very stressful moments in the day. One of them is the 5-10 minutes before the ceremony, making sure all the audio is set. 5-10 minutes before the reception, making sure all the audio is set.
And lights.
Yeah,
Audio and
audio and
lighting,
lights,
yeah.
like that. Those are his jobs. So those are the things that he really stresses him out. But we have got it set up to where, like, by the end of the portrait session, usually if we can, Garrett will go ahead and I will stay back, or we will try to beat the couple or the bridal party, like if we're moving. But a lot of the times you also use that time, like during cocktail hour, to do all of the setup. Like we have a wedding planner we work with that one of her requirements, she loves a room shot. So we know every time that we work with her, we have to set aside, a few minutes to get an empty room shot. Even though that's not our favorite, like it's hers. So we want a room with people in it.
It's like we no longer shoot the dress by itself. I like to do teaser dress shots, and then I really don't want my viewer to see the dress until the emotion is in the dress. Like the bride's in the dress, she's smiling, she's crying. Same way with the reception hall. A big empty room is beautiful, but I can get the same room shot when they walk into the room for the first time and the room is full of people. It's full of love, it's full of good energy, it's full of emotion, and it's full of smiling happy faces. Whereas getting a room shot that's empty, hey, if that's what you do, that's great. I choose not to because it's just showing off the decorations, and you can do that when there's people in the room, and it's way more powerful and has more energy in the shot than an empty room.
Mhm. So,
But it's also a good time, sorry, to get the, I do like to light the cake and
oh
get a
yeah.
really nice, like a tracking shot or something, like cakes, let's say this is the cake over here, and then I'm over here, and there's maybe flowers in the middle, and I'll light the cake and maybe I'll light the flowers and get a nice little, dolly shot of with my gimbal or something. So that's a good time while you're doing the room shot.
Right. So the reception is also one of those times when you have the live events you have to focus on capturing as well. Like the toast, the first dance, if they're still doing cake cutting. I mean, in this area, I think they even still may do, bouquet garter, anything like that, making sure you're capturing those in a live event form. So
Even this wedding that on the screen, they did they
yeah.
tossed a bouquet. Not
Yeah.
garter isn't really much of a thing anymore in this area.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's not even I can't remember the last time that thank goodness.
Yeah,
That
thank
was always real
goodness.
creepy. I hated it.
So
Okay, it was
awkward.
so gross. Where were we? Oh yeah. So you have to do all of this live event coverage. Plus, we love to end our films on a high. So we like to cover the dancing as well. Oh, yeah. I was going to back up a little bit. As far as cameras and stuff for the reception, Garrett's it's generally I'm on the 70 to 200 and Garrett's on a wide, so like that's how we can balance our shots too.
Medium wide.
Medium wide. Yeah. So it's like he knows that. So we have a variety of shots. So if you're working alone, you have to make sure that you're getting a variety. Whereas we already know going in, I'm always not getting tight, Garrett's always getting wide, so we're going already having this plan and knowing exactly what each other is going to capture. That's a luxury for us, we know. So staying in communication with your second is huge.
Also, especially if you're alone, but even with us during the toast, have a camera on a wide shot of where
Yeah.
they're going to be at, because you never know what's going to happen. You may say, okay, I want you to all do the toast from this microphone stand, but then like a wedding that we had, he took the wireless mic off, got on a Segway and started zooming around the place while he was doing his toast. So Yeah, that was not only a nightmare to follow, and he wasn't in the light that we had set up for him, but it was very difficult to to find him. But we had a wide shot, so we cut to that while he was being silly. But having that wide shot will also protect you in case the maybe where you're set up, the dad picks up the mic and he starts walking around and going over to this table and saying, "Hey guys, thanks for coming." Going to this table, and then wherever you're at, maybe there's a large centerpiece on a table that's blocking your shot where you had set up. So you need to move real quick. And during that movement, you can cut to that wide angle camera and it looks seamless.
Mhm. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Like you usually like to use a gimbal a few times. So this is the time of the day when you play a little bit more.
I usually use the gimbal on like a 14 millimeter. As they come into the reception hall, they're introduced. I'll do the shot like Amber was talking about, where I'll kind of aim at the ceiling, and then I'll be at the door where they're getting ready to come in, and then I'll Mr. and Mrs. Baird, here they come. Yay, everybody claps. And then I'll come down and reveal the front of the bride and groom. And then I'm walking backwards. And so I can't, of course, keep that up and go into the crowd. So as they get close to me, I just kind of swarm around and they'll swoop around and they go right by me. And then I follow them from behind and see the dress and see them. Usually they're giving people high fives as they walk out to the dance floor. And then if they are going straight to the cake or straight to sometimes the first dance, I'll continue that motion and just kind of do a couple, circles around them, and then grab my usually my if I was on my 14, I'd probably put the 50 on it for like the cake cutting or the first dances.
So while Garrett's doing all of that fun stuff, I'm sitting there with a monopod and I'm capturing all the people cheering for them with the 7200. So I'm capturing the moms and the dads and the bridesmaids and the grandma and grandpa like cheering and, celebrating. So that's not like the wedding day, man. That's just the funnest part. Like
Yeah,
the wedding day
especially
is
when you
so
get to the
fun.
reception because you're almost done.
Really. I'm a little bit stressed thinking about all of this. Yeah, so then we have like for the toast, I didn't forget the safety cam here, but we usually have a safety camera. And then for the first dances, we
Okay,
use
go back and explain the lighting on the toast. There's one on the
I
top
did
right
this
too.
during the lighting
Oh, okay,
class.
yeah, that's right.
We did that. This is the exact same thing I did during our lighting class.
So if you want to know about lighting the reception, go watch that video.
We already discussed this, but being a team player is one of the more significant things you can do. Not only does it, it makes you likable. Honestly, like that's what it's all about. Unfortunately, like this is our business and we need people to like us, to work with us,
Yep.
And so if you can help another vendor out, or I've helped a wedding planner do all kinds of things before, and Garrett's like, I just need you to shoot. I'm like, well, this lady needs some help.
I've actually went to table to make sure everybody had their drinks, which was really like we were just waiting on the bride and groom anyways, and the wedding planner said, "Hey, can you check to see if that side of the room has their drinks?" I'm like, "Okay, so I guess yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not doing anything. I'll help out."
Yeah,
Yeah,
because they were having a struggle with the timing because like you were again, you're at the mercy of other people so often, especially like whenever the food is late or it's not being served quickly or we're running late because this was late, because this was late, because this was late. And it's just
right.
like the whole thing. So that's why you have to
It's
be
it
flexible.
it's cascading effect. If the hair and makeup people don't do their stuff on time, the whole day it's cascaded forward. So they usually they won't postpone serving the food because that means the food will get cold. They won't postpone how long, or they won't postpone the start of the wedding because that's kind of set in stone. So where does the extra time that somebody else messed up on come out of? Usually it's the creative session. You have to keep in mind that time is liquid. It's just you cannot depend on the timeline like that guy that helped us work. He had alarms on his watch for every single thing that was supposed to happen. Like in a perfect world, that'd be great, but we're all real people in a crazy day trying to make a epic thing, whether it's makeup, whether it's hair, whether it's photography, video, musicians are there. And it's a lot. And then you just have to go with the flow.
Yeah. And so I think we've already discussed most of the challenges, but staying present and focused is very difficult. And that's and that I think is why we all come back. Who doesn't have a massive migraine the day after a wedding?
Right.
We're all just so emotionally, physically exhausted because of staying present and focused, a step ahead, the creativity, you know, all of the technical stuff. So it is hard, and you have, and if you want to be successful, you have to make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row. And make sure, I mean, like my ducks are never in a row, and so for a wedding day, it's just like, let's
That's
get
probably the
there.
most organization we ever have in our life
Yeah.
is on the wedding day.
100%.
We are we're like surgeons out there,
Oh.
and we can just we talk telepathically like it's crazy. I wish we could get along as good on a wedding day. I mean, like our normal life is. I wish my normal life was as organized as the wedding day, because being organized just sets you up for success.
It really does. I think the final thing I want to, as we're finishing up here, 2 minutes over, slow is pro. So that was one thing we had to learn the hard way. As someone with that, I suffer from anxiety. And so whenever I'm in a situation with a time constraint and I start going more quickly, it only amplifies my anxiety.
Meanwhile, I have ADHD, so I'm like, what's that? What's that? What you? What? Oh, yeah. Oh, ha. Oh, do that. Shoot that. Oh, yeah. Ducks.
I was surprised you didn't say squirrel, but
But
you're
I went with something different.
back to the ducks in a row.
Yeah. Well, we actually had a wedding with ducks that were in a
We
row.
sure did.
Yeah.
We sure did. So this is not about being slow as in like slowing things down, but being slow as in being intentional with everything that you do and being focused with everything you do. So the more that you can slow down and do things intentionally, actually the faster you will go.
Right.
Slow is pro and pro is fast.
And remember that energy I was talking about earlier, the energy bubble where you smile a lot and you like, when you're working on your camera and like, oh, that's a great shot. It also applies if you're acting like crazy like me with ADHD, like oh,
If you're
if
stressed, then
you're
you'll
all
know.
stressed and you're like, oh, we're gonna have what time? Oh, the sunset. Oh, it's raining. Oh, that energy is just going to seep into everybody around you.
I will.
So
I have a story
especially
about
keep that
that.
away from the bride. Keep that away from the groom. They are so stressed out already. Even if the church collapse, don't tell them. Let somebody else tell them. You want just vibes of love and energy, and everything's perfect. It's a wonderful day. You want Disney vibes just radiating off of you.
I have a story about that. One time, it was there were a couple years where Garrett and I decided that it would be good to film two weddings on the day, so we separated, which was not a great idea, but we thought let's make more money.
You're trying to expand.
We were trying to make more money. And so I was leading a team and I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't confident enough and I wasn't I don't know, maybe I was, but you know. And so I drank a monster that day
Mm,
and I am also not the type of person to be shouldn't remember that anxiety thing. So then I went to go mic the groom and my hand is like this.
yeah.
And he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. He's like, should I be nervous? And I'm like, no. You know, so
I just had too much Monster Energy drink.
and also anxiety because I'm doing this wedding by myself and I'm running a team by myself and all of that stuff. So, you know, like the vibe that you bring will be reflected. But yeah, slow as pro is really one of the things that that definitely we have to say to ourselves to this day
Yep.
in anything that we do. Like sometimes we're like, why are we trying to rush? Like this, there's no need to rush this. Let's go slow.
Right.
Because
Where we've messed up, like one of the only times that we've like broken a lens or broken a piece of equipment is when we're in a hurry and we're trying to, attach it to the monopod and we're just like in a hurry because something's happening, and it's just be
it's the intentional, like we
yeah.
would, or when we were in a rush and we would inevitably forget something. You would go off and forget it. Like, when it comes to mind, I remember we
We
forgot
forgot
a
memory cards.
double batteries.
Yeah.
Like a double batteries on a charger at a venue that's 6 hours from our house. I'm not getting that back, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We've left things and places, and it's mostly because we were so stressed because we didn't have our ducks in a row.
Right. Like we had like at one wedding we had the cards like each camera had a card in it, but then my little case full of all the extra cards we need, I didn't pack the day before. I packed it that morning and I left it laying somewhere, and so I had to drive a couple hours back to get our memory cards. because where we were shooting didn't have like a Best Buy or anything like that to buy them. So we just had enough memory to shoot for Amber to shoot to the prep, and then I got back when the prep was over with the backup. But that all could have been avoided if I would have had this video to watch and be like, Garrett, prep the day before.
Prep the day before. I know a lot of it was about prep. So I really think I'm thankful that we are helping others with this, because we learned it all the hard way. And so hopefully somebody can learn
Yeah,
something.
there really wasn't a community like this in 20 years ago. Everybody kind of held their cards close to their chest, and they didn't really want to share it a lot. So nowadays with YouTube and stuff, and like this B&H, like hearing pros that have been doing it for a while, like I watch these all the time because you can learn so much. You think you know everything, well, you probably don't, and you can learn from everybody.
Mhm.
So yeah, these videos are just crucial to help just get your business going along quicker.
So be prepared, be adaptable, and be collaborative. And that's really the three takeaways I hope that everybody learns from this one. But I think that's it, Fred. If you are there, I think we are good to go. So what do you think? Do you have
I
any
am
questions?
here.
Oh,
I
I gotta
like.
stop sharing. I forget. Here, where did it go?
Oh, we're free.
Oh,
We
okay,
are
cool.
on screen. Yeah, your three major points. Definitely. I like that it's not just set your camera to this for if you want like misty light looking. The three major points are things that people should be spending more time thinking about when they come see a B&H video. But that point about being adaptable is huge. Like I've always been a pretty heavy planner, whether it was studio shoots or event shoots, like all the things. And then day of would hit, and if things didn't go according to plan, I would get into kind of like an honest slump. Right? Yeah, you know
Yeah.
exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
So being adaptable and prepared for the inevitable on-site changes, like I said, it's a huge tip for everybody.
And it's hard because it's like if you have your heart set on this shot, that's just going to, you think, going to be the most epic thing in the world, and it doesn't work out. Garrett, how does that make you feel?
I get grumpy.
He does. He's like, I can't get
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sorry, the time's not there, or the couple's not willing to, but the funny thing is we've had couples do crazy stuff for us, and the thing is just ask. But I think that some of it is hard for especially people that have like autism and stuff, like social cues, you know?
Mhm.
So that's something like for me it's easy because I'm emotionally sensitive person. She get it from her trauma. But like that's it's easy for me to pick up on the social cues where like maybe somebody's uncomfortable doing something. Whereas Garrett, he's just like, I didn't notice that. So also like just, trying to find people that can be sensitive to that too, and like
Mhm.
sometimes when you can push and when you can't.
And it's a learned talent or technique
Yeah.
that even if you don't have it to begin with and you're not really great at picking up on some of those social cues, the more weddings you attend, the more emotional events you're at, you start to pick up on when that was going to happen and how to capture it. So yeah, the more you do it, the more you learn, and the more you're ready for it.
Yeah.
Yep. And even like being adaptable for when something changes. Like I don't want anyone to think like, oh no, everything like the world's upside down. I have to figure out how to like turn it right side up. Sometimes those surprise moments can lead to some of the best photos or footage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, So you should be open to that as well.
We definitely did not go into Henry and Mead's wedding, the one with all the rain that we talked about before. We did not go into that thinking we were going to get some of those killer shots of a couple standing in the pouring rain, but
Rock what you got.
you rock what you got.
Um, One thing that caught me off guard early on was the backseat driver, like the in-laws saying what I need to capture, tapping me behind the shoulder. As
Yes.
as a photographer, I got it almost every time. Is that
Yes.
something videographers have to deal with too?
Rarely. I mean, I don't. Occasionally, somebody will be like, "Oh, look what little she's over in the dance floor dancing." Like, yeah, I just shot her for like 80 minutes. I got a lot of it, but they just saw it for the first time, so they're like, and I'll be like, "Okay," and I'll just I'll just act like I'm doing it and like, thanks, that's great.
Yeah, we don't get it nearly as
No,
much
we don't.
as photographers do, but it still really just annoys me. Yeah, it annoys me just as much. I'm like, I'm doing my job here. I know what I'm supposed to be doing.
My favorite is when I'm doing some drone shots and somebody's like trying to talk to me about drones and talk to me about anything really. And at one wedding, it was a massive indoor, one of the largest indoor dome like hotels in the nation, and we got permission to fly the drone inside during the first
Ooh.
shot, during the first dance. And so I was doing a drone shot. And I mean, it's called West Bay, and if you look it up, it's a beautiful freestanding like dome. It's a hotel and venue.
Okay.
And I was doing a drone shot, and this person came up to me and just started talking to me about flying the drone indoors. And I was already like, my thumbs were shaking because flying indoors is kind of scary for me. And so
It should be for everybody.
right. And so I was kind of mean and we like, don't talk to me. I can't talk right now. And she scampered away. And I went to find her and I asked like who she was because I had to apologize. That felt so bad, but I was like, I'm flying my drone inside now. It's the first dance. There's a lot that can go wrong. Don't talk to me.
I
But
forgot about
yeah,
that. Yeah, that
I,
was.
I don't want to hurt any of you.
right.
I forgot one key point I was going to say. Like, this is gonna sound bad, but fill your car up with some medicine too.
Oh yeah.
So like
Mm.
Imodium, things for like stomach issues, things for, like headaches, migraines. We have filmed a wedding in every single level of health known to man. Like I filmed
Flu,
weddings
food poisoning,
2 weeks after
seasick.
2 weeks after chemo, a week after surgery,
Oh my.
it's just like, so that's the other problem is that it's not going to change. You can't call in, right? So
Mm.
one thing that we have done is we do have a good network of friends that will help us in need, like a couple times. Like there was a wedding I couldn't go to whenever I was sick, and we had 2 friends come and help us. So, like also having a good network of people that you can trust is key, and that's part of the collaboration.
Mm.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I hate to carbon date us, especially since you brought up what to not to forget in your car, but
Yeah.
do you remember MapQuest and printing out
Oh,
directions?
You print it out. Yep, absolutely.
Props to anyone that
oh,
had to buy a gas station map and mark it.
we would like
Like,
have these printed to the venue. Like
yeah.
thankfully by the time we started traveling a lot, we had phones,
Mm.
like Google, like the
Yeah.
iPhone was around
Well,
then.
before that, we had
Yeah.
like GPS on the
Yeah.
dashboard.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. We did have
So it went from
the
printing it to
the
GPS, which
GPS on the dashboard. I totally forgot about that. Like
worked
the
sometime.
TomTom.
Yeah.
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 And then
We did have those.
I think at the time my phone was smart enough to have a flip out keyboard, but
Oh,
not to tell me when to turn left and
no.
right.
right.
Yeah. So those TomTom things, they don't work well in rural areas.
Oh,
So,
wait.
so we still like we would have couple like even just within the last, well, okay. Whenever you start thinking about it, it was like probably 6 or 7 years ago. Well, okay. I just had an existential crisis about age, but that's fine. We still will get couples though, like, all right, so your GPS will only take you so far. You're gonna have to turn down this gravel road here,
You're gonna
and then
see
you're gonna see a sign.
an
and
old
you're gonna
oak
turn left.
tree.
No,
Yeah.
seriously. Like these are still things that we have to think about in the Midwest in rural communities. So if like there were a couple like the bride, I'll send you a pen. I'm penning the location here. Like even just in the state right next to ours, we couldn't find that hog farm that was out there, if you remember. So,
Was that the one where like we were driving on the road to the venue and even Google Maps like, hey, you're not on a road right now.
yeah. So there's something
Driving through a field. What are you doing?
yeah, but those MapQuest days though, I'm definitely glad we're past
Yeah.
that.
What's your usual target? Like, how much time do you give yourself before everything begins? Like, I want to be at the venue an hour ahead of time, so forth and so on.
Yeah, so Like for the ceremony per se, let's say that's the one that we probably have the most setup on. You know, we're getting all the cameras and the audio and stuff. So Garrett likes
The
to have an
cameras on,
hour.
you know, tripods.
Yeah.
I'm not patching into the PA system, but I am miking, like, especially if it's the priest, I'm trying to track them down and you know, make sure they have a mic, making sure if there's a musical quartet, make sure there's a mic over there somewhere, put a mic on the groom, and that's a really stressful time. Basically, we get to the prep hopefully about an hour or more before she's getting her final makeup done. And
Mhm.
then the rest of the day, we're just trying to stay one step ahead of wherever she's at,
So, but our
or
goal,
he or she.
yeah, so our ultimate goal is an hour before the ceremony start where they're prepping, like putting stuff up. Now, how we rolled into ceremony prep 5 minutes before the ceremony is supposed to start, we sure have, and it was not fun. But that's the part of like just being doing it for so long,
Right.
we were able to get it done, you
And,
know. But
and it's,
if we'd have our druthers, as we say, we want to be at the ceremony site an hour before the ceremony starts.
yeah,
So
and if here's a quick tip: if you do run out of time and it's like 5 minutes before the ceremony starts, and you're pulling your gear in, your tripods, the first thing you should set up is that wide shot, whether it's in the balcony or the back, and then hit record. Make sure it's the way you want it, hit record. And then while you're setting up, in case, God forbid, the ceremony starts and you're still not ready, that wide shot still has your back and you still have a recording
Smart.
of what's going on. Yeah.
now I don't
Nice.
know if that, I mean, I know I can think of one that's really happened at, and it was a destination wedding, so it didn't really matter as much. But you know, like if you have a coordinator or something, they're gonna know that there's a time issue. But
Right.
we have never been the cause of a ceremony being
Right.
late.
I never want anybody waiting for me. I don't
Yeah.
mind. I would rather wait there. If I'd rather get there early, set up, and then just be twiddling my thumbs waiting than to have anybody wait on me.
Yeah.
That's the feeling I don't want to feel.
Yeah. So the ceremony, our goal is an hour before the ceremony starts. The reception is as much time as we can, but generally at the reception, we are barely getting in there
Right,
with
because
time to
Um,
set up. So a lot of the setting up stuff is happening during dinner. You know, a lot of the times Garrett's setting up lighting and audio while I'm eating.
right. Yeah, usually we get there just in time to have just our gear and we shoot their entrances. And if they run to the cake and they do the cake, whatever the
Yeah.
first few things they do, and then they usually have dinner after that. So that's when I'm setting up lights for the first dance and the rest of the reception and
Yeah.
audio.
So those
mhm.
are that's if it's a really tight timeline. We'd love to do all those things before, but you know, like getting B-roll and all of that stuff. So it is a lot. It's a lot of balls in the air. It really
Yep.
is. So it's just, you know, the more prepared. We just
Yeah.
keep saying that because we are notoriously sometimes underprepared.
And
So
one of the things that leads to our success is that we have a very small kit. So when we
yes.
go into a reception on just in the nick of time, we don't have 4 Pelican cases like we used to have. We have a think tank bag that we're rolling, and then I have a bag full of tripods and light stands. So
Mhm.
if Amber stays with the creative session, I can run to the reception, and no matter who it is, whether it's Amber or whether it's me, one person in one trip can carry everything we have in. So it's not like
Smart again.
if we're in like a parking garage situation, we don't have access to our car. We don't want to make multiple trips back and forth. Everything can be handled by one person, and I mean everything.
Ask us why we did that. That's because we've done the opposite. You know, and I think we kind of went through that in
Growing
episode 2
pains.
or 3, but
Right.
yes. I
Yeah.
mean, because like you have this, well, the gas, you know, the gear acquisition syndrome, which at B&H, I'm sure they love that. But
It's healthy. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
yeah, but realistically, on a wedding day, you know, like the day that it mattered was the day we rolled up to this venue in downtown Indianapolis. It's like the Columbia Club. It's like one of those, if you have to ask how much it is, then you can't go, you know.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
they told Garrett he had to unload through the freight elevator.
Yeah, they wouldn't let me in the
Oh,
front because I had like a DJ cart, and literally I had like 4 Pelican cases. I felt like a pro.
And a gimbal.
And
You had the big gimbal on
yeah,
top of it.
one
that
of
you
one
had
of those cases was for the gimbal. So
You were wearing an easy rig while you were
pretty
carrying a thing.
just slide of an easy rig. Like we used to have, like whenever, so those baby Garrett and Amber pictures, they bought at one point the full glide cam vest system. So we didn't have an easy rig ever. We don't have one, but we have the full glide cam vest.
which is yeah.
Respect. All right. Well, speaking of tight timelines, I
I
don't want to
know.
take any more of your afternoon. I know that your schedule is full, both
We could
on the
talk
professional
about
side
it
and the
over
personal
here
side.
all the time. Well, we could talk about, like, we love this so much, and it's been such a huge, wonderful part of our lives.
Yeah.
Like, we have literally made our best friends from weddings. Like,
Yep.
our best friend are former couple that we met 13 years ago. So it's something that is such a wonderful career, but it's hard and we understand it. And it's hard being a creative in this industry during this time. And so it's like we just hope that this can help
Make
the
it
next
easier.
generation.
Yeah, make it easier for somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Cool.
we
Great.
love it and we thank you all for having us today.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, everybody, if you like this and want to see other parts of the series, we've now got 6 in the books and 4 coming up to close out 2024. So after this, check out the links to the previous wedding film mastery lessons from Amber and Garrett in the chat, or please check out the B&H Event Space YouTube channel. Guys, hopefully I can sneak on as your host again before this is over. This was great. Thank you so much. And much appreciation to Sony for this as well. We hope, yes, thank you, Sony. We hope that you are all entertained and educated. This has been another edition of the B&H Virtual Event Space. Thanks all.